Good morning. I'm Mayor Scott Smith. I'm the second Vice President of the United States Conference of Mayors. However, you already knew that, because what other person would they ask to run the early morning Saturday session other than the second Vice President, right? We know how this works. I'd like to begin by giving us a quick update on the U.S. Conference of Mayors Dollar-Wise campaign. Now, I promised I would give this with excitement and passion. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about Dollar-Wise with much passion. Actually, I do have some passion because in the city of Mesa, we have participated in Dollar-Wise for the last couple of years and have been very, very grateful for that participation. Since the campaign was launched, we have given financial and education innovation grants to over 20 cities. Here's some examples. In San Francisco and Denver, Dollar-Wise innovation grants have helped to grow very successful Bank On programs, encouraging our unbanked citizens to become banked. In Hartford, Mayor Segarra is helping to integrate financial education into community schools. In Milwaukee, Mayor Barrett, that was Barrett, not Barrett, is expanding financial education currently provided to public housing residents to include Section 8 voucher recipients as well. And in Bridgeport, just a few weeks ago, Mayor Finch hosted a financial education fair for over 800 high school students. This year, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Norfolk, Columbus, Georgia, and Detroit are recipients of Dollar-Wise Summer Youth Grants. We want to extend a special thanks to Bank of America Charitable Foundation for underwriting these grants. In addition to the Dollar-Wise campaign continues to provide grants to Summer Youth Jobs Program, supporting financial education for their participants. This year, Dollar-Wise is able to expand its Summer Youth campaign to incorporate financial education into every summer job by 2015. Through this program, kids who are working in a summer job are encouraged to be dollarwise.org and enter the Dollar-Wise Summer Youth Contest. After registering and establishing a savings goal for the summer, kids will complete online financial education modules over a 6-week period. Every week, the Dollar-Wise campaign will conduct drawings and award prizes, such as iPads, Kindles. Gee, where do I sign up? Sounds good. They'll give those to participating youth. We want to encourage every mayor and city with a summer youth job program to sign up and participate. More information is in front of you. And if you don't have a summer youth jobs program, some kind of service program, I would strongly suggest it. It's been one of the most successful things that we've done in Mesa, and it's been one of the most gratifying and satisfying experiences I've had as mayor. Additionally, it's incredibly important that we do everything we can to encourage private sector and nonprofits to hire youth this summer. Having a paycheck early on is a great form of financial education. Knowing how to manage it is even better. I'm pleased that our founding sponsor, Bank of America, is working with Dollar-Wise to advance this important cause. This summer, the foundation has already funded summer job opportunities in 16 cities and recently announced its solicitation of $15 million to add to their commitment. So again, thank you, Bank of America, for your strong support in these efforts. I also want to thank the Foundation for Financial Planning for its support of Dollar-Wise. Finally, don't forget to start planning early for Dollar-Wise Month in October. This is a time for mayors to promote our volunteer efforts and build upon programming that goes on throughout the year. For example, I know that Pembroke Pines Mayor Ortiz is, or I should say Ortiz, I even have Frank's name with a Spanish accent, sorry about that, Frank, is working with financial education programs in charter schools and for foster kids transitioning to adult life. So thanks, mayors, for supporting your Dollar-Wise campaign. Let's keep the momentum going and keep going. I now have the opportunity and the privilege to welcome to our meeting the President of the National League of Cities. Mayor Ted Ellis is the mayor of Bluffton, Indiana, and as NLC president, he has been working closely with the Conference of Mayors on priorities related to protecting community development block grants, securing infrastructure investment, improving public safety, and more. As a member of both the Conference of Mayors and the NLC, which I'm proud to say I am, I greatly appreciate the working relationship our two groups have. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Ted Ellis. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. If it's any consolation, the National League of Cities has the same chart of succession and assignment of duties for the second VP as you do here. And thank you for having us here today. It won't take long, not because I can't speak for a long time, but because there's a plane pushing me to get out of here. So I just wanted to come and thank the United States Conference of Mayors for the relationship that we've had between the National League of Cities and USCM over the years, especially as we get together and cooperate on so many areas. I think a lot of our cooperation is based in the fact that, well, John Kennedy used to recite this little four-line verse written by a matador, I think, and it goes, bullfight critics ranked in rows, crowd the enormous plaza full, but only one is there who knows, and he's the one who fights the bull. As local elected officials, we know all about fighting the bull, don't we? And I realize for some of us that means something a little different than it does for others. But as those who are in the arena together, we share so many things in common. Not only cooperation, but our success will be based on collaboration, and as you mentioned, because we have so many issues in Congress today, transportation issues, CDBG issues, that require that we work together and stand shoulder to shoulder. But there's even something more than that. It's more than cooperation or collaboration. Together, working together, we can provide an atmosphere where ideas can come and flourish, where vision flourishes in our cities and towns. And I don't have to tell you, you don't have to sit very long at the dinner table or stand very long in the hall or listen to very many speakers here to realize that things are just different than they were 10 years ago. Our citizens don't behave the same ways they used to, and we don't govern the way we did 10 years ago. And it's only by providing an atmosphere where these new ideas, new innovations, new ways of relating can flourish and grow that we both become successful. So again, thank you to the United States Conference of Mayors. Thank you for what you do in making things better for cities. We pledge to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in making things better for all of our cities and across the United States, and especially for those who dwell in those cities. So thank you very much, and let's get to work, shall we?
Thank you, Mayor Ellis, and I guess we'll see you in Boston. Boston in this one. And we'd also like your, oh, there he is down there. Don Borat. Don, you want to wave to everybody? If you don't know Don Borat, he is Tom's counterpart at the National League of Cities and does a great job. And I always tease Don that how much he enjoys the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and he always seems to come here because he's so relaxed. A far cry from when we're going to be in Boston, when Don is going to not be. Although this time, Don will be relaxed in Boston because Don recently announced his retirement after how many years? 22 years. Oh, you know, in CEO years, you're a young pup compared to Tom Cochran. After 22 years leading the National League of Cities, Don's going to retire at the end of this year. Thank you so very much. And Don has always been a big supporter of our efforts here and has always been at our conferences, and we appreciate it, Don. Thank you. Now I'm honored to moderate our panel on serving America's veteran. You know, if you're like me, I feel a little something special every time I'm walking through an airport or down the street or I'm in a restaurant and I see one of our men or women in uniform. And certainly over the last 10 years, it's taken on 10 plus years. It's taken on a special meaning. I'm not a veteran myself. I grew up in that era, right when the Vietnam War was ending. I can't even tell you what my draft lottery number was. All I know is I didn't care about it because they ended the draft, I think, when I was a senior in high school. But I'm always reminded of the sacrifice that our veterans freely make every day to secure our nation's freedom. Because of their commitment, we can live and prosper in a free society. These individuals have created for us the strongest military force on the planet. We're thankful for the sacrifice that they and their families make to protect our freedom at home and around the globe. Our troops have already begun coming home in large numbers from Iraq and Afghanistan. Thousands more will soon leave active duty and return home to their communities. I'm sure that you agree that our nation, our states, and our communities owe our veterans a lot. They deserve a good education, a good paying job, affordable housing, proper health care, and other critical benefits. Most of all, they deserve our support. And actually, it's in our best interest to give them our support, because what we have is a group of men and women who are committed, who are passionate, who are well-trained, who are disciplined. That would seem like that would be anything, that would be something every community would want. Our discussion this morning will focus on efforts underway in our communities and at the federal level to support our nation's veterans. We've assembled a great panel of mayors and federal officials to share in this discussion. Each mayor will take a few minutes to discuss various services being provided in their communities. Then the two federal officials will briefly discuss key benefits available to veterans and the impact of those benefits on local communities. Our first panelist is Hallandale Beach, Florida Mayor Joey Cooper. Mayor Cooper serves on the Conference of Mayors Advisory Board and is co-chair of the Community and Military Relations Task Force. Following Mayor Cooper, we will hear from Sumter, South Carolina, Mayor Joe, he told me, not Joseph, Joe McKelvin, a veteran of the United States Air Force. Mayor McKelvin is also co-chair of the Community and Military Relations Task Force. Following Mayor McKelvin, we'll hear from Auburn, Washington, Mayor Pete Lewis, who is a Navy veteran. Mayor Lewis has worked hard to help veterans groups and veterans in need and helped open the first King County Veterans Office outside downtown Seattle. After we hear from our mayors, we will hear from John Garcia, who is Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. John served in Vietnam in the U.S. Army. He will discuss the benefits and services available to veterans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. Our last speaker is Ismael Jr. Ortiz, Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Veterans Employment and Training at the U.S. Labor Department. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the U.S. Marines. Mike, why do I feel incredibly insignificant right now with all these veterans and everything right here? The Lieutenant Colonels and Navy and Air Force. He will discuss various services available at the Labor Department to assist veterans in education and training. After we've heard from our panelists, we'll entertain questions from the mayors in the audience. So let's begin with our opening comments. Mayor Cooper?
Thank you very, very much, Scott. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here today and having an opportunity that I know to discuss something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. When I got involved in the military task force, I was like, "What? You don't have a military base in your city. Why are you engaged in this issue?" Well, quite obviously, it is an issue we all need to be concerned with, whether we have a military base or not, because I'm sure all of us have military personnel, whether retired or active or participating in various issues with military impacts. I got involved in, and as I'm sitting here, you know, there's been many wars, and one of the other reasons I've gotten involved, if you picture times before when we used to have, before tweets, before blogs, before any of the communications, they used to call to battle, either it was a trumpet or a drum beat, and the drum beat, the fife and drum would come in and they'd beat the drum, and everyone in the community would realize and know what that was about. So I think that's the sole essence of why I'm engaged in this process, is that we have to continue to beat the drum in a constant way, because the impacts of the current wars and all the wars in the past impact lives of not just young men and women and families, but our seniors as well. And many times we also get engaged in the holidays, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, 4th of July, but this is something that has to be 365 days of the year. And what we're doing this year in Hallandale Beach is in July, not on the 4th, but in the middle of the summer, which isn't so great, but we hope to do it again, is actually invite the DOD, the Veterans Affairs committees, and all those resources in a bipartisan event that's going to be held in our cultural center. We've invited Senator Rubio, Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and we have a litany of groups that are going to bring resources together at our cultural center to help engage and re-engage our veterans in understanding what their services are available to them. Also, I've also gotten involved in ESGR, Employee in Support of the Guard and Reserve, and those were alarming numbers when I started to find out how many military men and women are coming back. Even though we have legislation supporting their return and preserving their jobs, the jobs simply aren't there. Either the factories have closed or the offices are out of business. So when I heard the numbers, and I'm not familiar with the very current numbers, but back then it was almost 40% were returning back without jobs. So a large component of this forum that we're having is engaging and putting together employers. We're partnering with our Chamber of Commerce and ensuring that all our employers or employers in the area are engaged in posting their jobs and partnering with all the agencies and all the resources. And one other final thing that's taking place, and we can't take credit for it maybe, but we can get involved, the judicial system and also the partnership that they have with the new veteran courts. In Broward County, our chief judge has instituted the diversion program, which I've found out about being involved in this committee, that provides pulling those veterans that maybe of no fault of their own or from trauma from war find their way without a job or in some type of addictive behavior, whether it's drugs or alcohol, rather than going and becoming directly infused into a criminal system or jail, is partnering and going to diversion courses. So we as mayors can use our bully pulpit to really push our judicial systems to encourage this type of veteran court in our communities. Because I can't think of anything worse than having a veteran incarcerated and not being able to, get them back and bring them back with resources that are there, that for any reason, maybe pride or just not having access because they don't have a hospital or an agency directly in their community, get them re-engaged and give them the services they need. So thank you for letting me share with you some of my thoughts and what we're doing in Hallandale Beach and the surrounding communities in Broward. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Now, Mayor McKeldin.
Thank you. Sumter is a smaller city, 40,000. We have about 110,000 in our county. We've been the home of Shaw Air Force Base for 71 years. Shaw started out as an air training field. It became a reconnaissance wing in the 50s through Vietnam. Then a fighter wing came in 71, and we've been that since. We're the home to not only the 20th Fighter Wing, which is the largest contingent of operational F-16s in the Air Force and the most modern version of the F-16. We're also home to the 9th Air Force Central Command, and as a result of the last BRAC, we're also home to 3rd Army Headquarters. So we have a lot of experience as a military community in Sumter. In fact, a couple of years ago, we always appreciate the economic impact, but Sumter is really ingrained into the military system. We had a branding operation, I guess you'd say, in our community, and the slogan they came up with for Sumter was uncommon patriotism. So we have a lot of support for our military. I was able to find out that we've got 11,500 veterans in Sumter who are receiving benefit. I could not get a good number on how many total veterans we have, but my guess is it's around 20% of the population. We have a full-time military affairs director on staff and have done that for 20 years. Quite frankly, it started out so we would always be prepared for BRACs, but it's developed into an office that we try to find out what our base and its people need basically before they know they need it. We have an excellent relationship. Many retirees, many people process out and decide to stay in Sumter when they get out of the service. Shaw Air Force Base is over 1/3 of our economy, so that'll get your attention if nothing else does. Before the Great Recession, Sumter had about 28% of its workforce in manufacturing. The national average a few years ago was like 12 or 11%. We've, of course, been hit very, very hard by the recent recession. 2 Bosch plants closed, 2 furniture plants. We lost a lot of jobs. But one thing is that I think the veterans that we've had come into our community have continued to find jobs. One of the things we found out a few years ago, we had a Caterpillar plant located in Sumter, and one of the main reasons they chose Sumter was the pool of veterans and military dependents who were available to work. And we now have 2 Caterpillar plants in Sumter, and they just announced a recent expansion. Also, we just had an announcement, Continental Tire is building a plant, 1,600 jobs and a $500 million+ investment. The availability of a skilled, disciplined, loyal workforce that is provided through veterans was a big reason in this. As I compiled this information for today, I became aware that we have no real plan for vets in Sumter, but because of our long and strong military relationship and ties, veterans are hired, and we take care of veterans in Sumter. But I want to commend the Conference of Mayors for deciding to get ahead of this defense transition issue. But one thing that struck me is that Sumter's done a great job of handling veterans as they come into our community and people who process out of the service. Things like sequestration and downsizing is really going to increase that problem. And whereas our current infrastructure can handle it, our current social structure and all that, if we get an overload, it's going to be a problem. And as we know, when things start in Washington, they usually end up with us, and we've got nowhere to go with them. So it's better that we start right now worrying about things like cutbacks in the military, people that are going to be looking for, more people could be looking for jobs, serious injuries, families who have lost loved ones. We know we're going to have to deal with these issues. And we can't just allow the debate in Washington to be limited to military preparedness, as important as that is. My city, our cities, cannot deal with sequestration and cutbacks without help. There's a human level to this that we as mayors have to make sure is addressed because it will affect us. I haven't even mentioned homelessness or medical issues. Our very limited resources in Sumter are already overworked with the current demand. We're fortunate to have faith-based outfits that are helping with the homeless issue, one of them specifically for veterans. Once again, I commend the U.S. Conference of Mayors for taking a look at this side of the defense debate. And I would say that anyone who's had a military base knows that this war hasn't been going on for 10 years. It's been going on for 20 years. I know at Shaw, they never came home. They never stopped after the first Persian Gulf War. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McKelvin. Now, Mayor Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. As a mayor of a city that has the largest Veterans Day parade west of the Mississippi, we've always been involved with the veterans. We have a Veterans Park, and we dedicated a building for veterans' use. When I first became mayor as a Vietnam veteran, one of the things that was certain in my life was that I was not ever going to go seek assistance from any veterans facility or talk much about my experiences. With the help of some very smart people, one of them my wife Kathy, who is a lifetime member of the VFW on her own and decided I should be involved, led me down a path that has had some surprising turns. The state of Washington has one of the largest contingents of Guard in the United States. One of the largest areas and concentrations of veterans in our state is in our county, our end of the county, and we work on veterans issues all the time. One of the things that we found out that we had problems with are veterans, and mayors are problem solvers. So veterans became a problem to be solved. I helped pass as a conservative, I found myself in a strange position of being one of the co-sponsors of a veterans levy that produces $13 million a year for veterans assistance in our county. I worked on veterans issues, and I talked to a great number of people on how to deal with the problem. And we've had outstanding success. We're even moving toward a Veterans and Human Service Center in our community in the heart of our Central Park. And I went to talk to some more learned people, and one of the ones that I talked to changed my entire perspective. The gentleman sitting to my left, Undersecretary John Garcia. One of the things that came out of the series of meetings that I had was that veterans are an economic development asset. They are not a problem to be solved, but an asset in revitalizing your community. Let me give you just a couple of examples. Veterans come back starting off with $30,000 in school benefits. If you have 100 veterans in your community going to school, you have $3 million. Now, every school, every college, and I sit as a trustee in our community college, will tell you that there's a multiplier of 7. For every dollar spent in that college, 7 are returned to the community. 100 veterans, $3 million. 500 veterans, $15 million, and think of the multiplier just from that. But these veterans are also coming back with money with housing allowances for many of them. Think about the abandoned houses in your cities. Veterans have access to programs that others do not. There is a home rehabilitation and veterans program presented through FHA 203K Mortgage and Home Depot, where they can rehab a house and then have a zero-down veterans VA loan to take out the permanent loan for that structure. If you have abandoned houses and you have veterans in your cities, you have a way to affect change now. In addition to that, veterans and from many of the wars come back and they go out and they form businesses. They become leaders of companies. Veterans can access federal contracts that others cannot. They can bring cash back to your community. One of the things that we've recently done is I do have someone that works with me on veterans issues. Now, one of the first things I did is make sure that the person's hair color was not like mine. You need to have somebody younger. You need to have somebody that's more in tune with the people coming back, even though they're a little older than they were during Vietnam. The very first thing you need to do is reach out and find out how many veterans-related organizations you have in your city. I can tell you right now, most of them don't know each other. In our community of 72,000, a service area of about 300,000, we have more than 30 veterans organizations, and that list of people who help with veterans issues is still growing. Every one of these sources, every one of the veterans who might come back to your community, understand some veterans, especially those retiring after 20 or 30 years, might stay around Port City areas. The rest of them are coming back to your communities. Every one of those veterans coming back can add value, add cash, add resources to your cities. A simple thing like getting a veteran's card. I had to be talked into it to get the process started, and I'm proud to have one now. Thank you, Kathy. Every one of those has benefits as well, even medical benefits, and there's a multiplier for benefits used by your veterans when they go to a clinic in your city. Veterans are a form of economic development that we've neglected, that we've not thought of in that manner. It's not a problem, it's a solution. As we help those that are in need, we also have the opportunity to have those who served us bring life back to our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. Let me first start off by saying I'm a Vietnam combat vet that served in Vietnam 1969, 1970 with the 4th Infantry Division. And can I just see a show of hand of our veterans in the audience, if they are here, if they could please stand, and let's honor and recognize those that have served their country. Thank you. God bless you. As you can see, they're still serving their country by serving as mayors. What's really unique is that, you know, when our fathers got back from World War II, they just came out of the Great Depression, and they fought and served and saved the world from tyranny, and they came back and they rebuilt this country. They rebuilt the highway systems. They were elected as governors, mayors, congressmen. And in the past, I'm certain, in my father's generation, if I'd asked that same question, will the veterans please stand, the whole room would have stood. Today, we have to ask for our veterans to please stand. And so those that have served the country, wore the American uniform, I want to thank you. On behalf of Secretary Shinseki and my 24 million veterans in the country, it's an honor for me to be here and to listen to this type of dialogue as a Vietnam vet. They came home to nothing. There was absolutely silence when I came home. And it took me 30 years to file for my benefits. I'm a 70% service-stable vet. But it took me 30 years because, like Mayor Lewis's wife, my wife finally said, I'm tired of chasing your dragons. Why don't you go to the VA, and if you don't want to go for yourself, then go for me. And I thought, well, why didn't you tell me that earlier? That made sense. And so the key to a lot of our veterans is not just the veteran himself, but it's the family. It's that wife and the children that he loves dearly and that love him dearly. So I just want to say to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Mr. Cochran, thank him for inviting me. Mayor Lewis, Mayor McElvin, Mayor Cooper, Mayor Smith, for what you do in calling attention to the mayors, the needs of my veterans. But I also want to recognize Junior Ortiz for his leadership for the Veterans Employment Training Department, Department of Labor. Department of Labor and the VA have long enjoyed a close relationship, partnership of working for our veterans. You know, there are 4 major mantras within the veterans. We just celebrated the U.S. Army's birthday. One is mission. The other is never quit, never give up, and never leave a veteran behind. That's ingrained in us. And I totally agree with Mayor Lewis. You know, veterans aren't a problem in your community if you look at them like that. They're a solution to the problem. They definitely are because of what they bring. My office, as the Assistant Secretary for Intergovernmental Affairs, I handle international relations, but I also work very closely with all the governors, all the state directors, all the directors of the veteran homes, 565 tribal leaders, all the veteran service organizations, and hopefully, and now with the mayors. Because I'm a former grunt, and when they brought me into the VA, it was like bringing in someone from the field to the base camp to tell them what's going on out there. Well, I'm telling the Secretary of the VA and I'm telling the VA that my mayors, each of you, are walking point. You're that commander out in the field, and you need to call into the base camp for firepower, and we need to deliver it to you. There's a lot of resources available to veterans today, more than I've ever seen since I've been home from Vietnam. The veterans of today, there's a lot that's being offered to them. And as a Vietnam veteran, are any Vietnam vets here? Let me first say welcome home, but I've got to tell you, I went to Walter Reed Hospital, and it's hard for me to tell you everything I want to tell you within 5 minutes, but I'm going to try. But I went to Walter Reed Hospital, I met with an Iraqi veteran. I was in the amputee ward. He lost his right arm and his right leg, and he had bullet holes in him. And I went to shake his left hand, which was in a cast with a bar, and I went to shake it gently. And he said, "Are you a Vietnam vet?" He said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, shake my hand like you mean it." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." So I shook his hand, and sitting next to him was this young, attractive lady, and I said, "Boy, your boyfriend's a pretty tough guy." And she said, "Oh, that's not my boyfriend, that's my son." She said, "I had him when I was 16 years old." She said, "But his grandfather's a Vietnam vet." And I went, "His grandfather, Vietnam vet?" Because we just don't seem to get old. But it hit me that this torch of freedom has truly been passed to a new generation. And we have an obligation to that generation to ensure that the sins of the past that we did to our veterans that came home from Vietnam do not occur again. And we need to address those. My office is an office that is a conduit for you. I want to be your resource. If you don't know who to contact within the VA, you contact me. And I will get the Undersecretary for Veterans Health, the Undersecretary for National Cemeteries, the Undersecretary for Veteran Benefits, and the Secretary himself to help address your issues or concerns. That's what my job's about. Use me as a resource if you don't know where to go. I know Mayor Lewis is constantly calling me, many of you. My mayor from Las Cruces, Ken Miyagishima, he knows the importance of what we do. In my state, I was the former Secretary of Veteran Affairs for 10 years under two governors, Governor King and Governor Richardson. I know what the importance of my veterans are, and we work very hard with our mayors in our state. Let me just assure you a couple things here. Since the early formation of our great country, over 40 million Americans have worn the American uniform as soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen. Of that number, over 1 million have died in combat. 185,000 have been listed as prisoners of war or missing in action since World War I, World War II, Korea, the Gulf War, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Vietnam. And today there are 24 million veterans in this country, 24 million that reside in our country. 1.4 million are here in Florida. Each of your state has a large number of veterans. And we have to ask, what are we doing for our veterans? Before, 40 years ago, everyone would say, well, go to the VA, let the VA take care of you. Now it's become a community issue. The mayors, the governors, the community, the states are all engaged in trying to reach out to our veterans. That mission was established by President Lincoln 147 years ago when he said in his second inaugural address, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, for his widows and his orphans. And these words are etched in every veteran building with every veteran service organization, to care for him who shall have borne the battle. It didn't just stop after the Civil War. It continued, and it will continue with future wars, future conflicts. Today, most people see the VA as a large healthcare provider, and for the most part, that's true. It's the largest integrated healthcare system in our country, serving 8.4 million veterans nationwide, with 152 medical centers and over 800 community-based outpatient clinics, nearly 300 vet centers, and a number of outreach mobile clinics that are in your communities. The VA also provides compensation and pension benefits for nearly 4.2 million veterans, and about 10% of them are 100% disabled. Let me give you a case example. Our mayor from Las Cruces, and I know our mayor from Hobbs, New Mexico is not here, but you all familiar with Hobbs, New Mexico? It's a huge metropolitan city. I'm just kidding, it's a small city. But I have one veteran service officer in that city. I'm going to use New Mexico as an example. We have 200,000 vets in that state. But in that one city, one veteran service officer helping find veterans file for their disabilities and their benefits that they're entitled to and that they've earned, he generated $3.2 million. There's not a business in Hobbs doing $3.2 million. And that money, as Mayor Lewis said, turns 3, 4, 5 times depending on what your Chamber of Commerce says in your community. So it's to your benefit to help find those veterans to get them to file for their benefits. 65% of the 24 million veterans have not filed for their benefits. It took me 30 years to file. And when I finally filed, I realized I lost my educational benefits. I lost a lot of other benefits. Life insurance covering 7.1 million active duty service members and enrolled veterans at 95% customer satisfaction rating. Home mortgages that guarantee 1.5 million service members and veteran loans with the nation's lowest foreclosure rate of 2.25%. Burial honors for nearly 120,000 heroes and eligible family members in 131 of our national cemeteries. Get this, educational assistance, $10 billion annually, second to the Department of Education. We did a survey in our state, Mayor, before I left. Find out all the institutions of higher learning. Ask yourself this in your own state, your own city. We did a survey in New Mexico. We knew that we had 30,000 Iraqi veterans back in our state, 30,000. So we did a survey of the institution of higher learning and found out we had about 4,000 veterans enrolled in the universities. So if I was to assume that those 4,000 were all Iraqi veterans, that meant that 26,000 were not going to school yet. Every one of them is part of a volunteer armed forces that has a $30,000 education package. That equated to over $500 million. And when I told my governor and my Secretary of Economic Development those numbers, their eyeballs opened up. My legislative eyeballs opened up. And when I also said that a veteran votes times 3, keep that in mind, times 3. They impact 3 votes. My legislative body's eyeballs open up because they knew where their constituents are. And so they're a resource to you. They bring dollars into your state. And if you have veterans in your state and your city that hasn't enrolled in school, those are money's lost. They also provide, the VA also provides critical grants to states and 140 veterans' homes. You know, the Montgomery GI Bill was the bill that changed this nation, and now the post 9/11 GI Bill is the bill that's changing this nation again. It's putting a whole new generation back into the universities, back into school, and it's also allowing their wives to go back to school, their family members. And they're going to come out and be corporate leaders. We need to be ready for them. We need to be very proactive. I also want to let you know the vast majority of the VA's budget is about $100 billion, and that money goes directly into your communities in forms of comp and pen, construction, education, loan guarantee, insurance, general operating funds, and medical care. States also, the states themselves, collectively, if you don't know who your state director is in your state, you better get to know him. Because collectively, the states appropriate over $5 to $6 billion of their own money to do outreach. When the President Bush, about 7 years ago, signed into law, Public Law 108, 183. How many have heard of that? Not too many. Public Law 108, 183 says, if you're a veteran and you have a disability, a service disability, 0% to 99%, and you're in business selling widgets, 3% of federal dollars are mandated to you by law. Let me give you a case in point. A gentleman comes into my office to file for his benefits to get his license plate. I asked him, have you ever filed for your benefits? No, I want a license plate. We get him to file. You have a disability? Yeah, I hurt my ankles. Well, let's file. It took me 6 months to get his disability. He had a janitorial company, and I said, how much did you do a year? He says, I do 100 grand a year. After he got his disability and Public Law 108 and he went after those federal contracts, today he's doing $8 million a year. And he's employing veterans. One other case in point from another state. A young man goes to Iraq, Afghanistan, he gets wounded. He files for his disability. He gets 70% disability status for comp and pen and all the other benefits he's entitled to, and he's earned. His father comes in and says, I have an electrical company, I'd like to put my son to work. It suggested to him, why don't you make your son president of the company? And they changed the name to Freedom Electric. The first contract was $1.9 million rewiring one of their dams in their area. That money went back in the community. They're a resource, and some states are now setting up, and mayors are beginning to set up, veteran business resource offices, setting up with veteran procurement technical assistant specialists, working with the SBA, working with Department of Labor, working with the VA. Tremendous resource. Put veterans to work, they will help themselves. They'll take care of veterans. They're a resource into your community. Don't look at them as a problem. Look at them as a solution. Find those solutions. Ask them what those solutions are, and they will change the way this country is moving in terms of unemployment. We have a tsunami of veterans coming out of the military. 100,000 retire every year, age 40. Skilled people, and they're moving into your communities. Over the next 5 years, it's estimated 2 million will take the uniform off, and a tsunami of veterans are going to come back into our community. We need to be ready and proactive, and that's what this meeting is about. So veterans in business, veterans education, veterans health care, PTSD, yeah, it's a problem, it's an issue. I was just talking to a lady earlier. Well, let's establish a national PTSD wellness center. Let's use our federal parks, use some of your communities that have beautiful areas to help veterans transition back safely. We are also working on jobs, teaming with the Department of Labor and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. This year, is there anyone from the state of Michigan here? State of Michigan, the end of June, we're going to have a national job fair. Right now, we have over 200 companies that have stepped forward and said we have 25,000 jobs available for veterans. We'll have a national veteran business conference. 7,000 veterans will be attending that. We expect at least 10,000 veterans to be showing up. This is a great time for my veterans, and I'm appealing to the mayors. You're walking point for me. So anything that the VA can do, anything DOL can do, anything SBA, any of the federal agencies can do, I think will certainly help you. Let me close with just this one small example, and I know I probably went a few minutes over my time. And if we can't laugh at ourselves, we can't laugh at anything. But let me just tell you this. My mayor's heard me this, but in my state, in some of your states, you know, there was this chopper was called out because 10 people were lost. 9 of them happened to be politicians. All right, you know where I'm going. 9 of them happened to be politicians, but 1 was a veteran out of these 10 people. So they called the National Guard to send a chopper out to find them because they were lost. Well, they found them. They're stuck between these 2 canyon walls. As the chopper went out, he had to, over the microphone, he said, I'm going to lower a rope down, and you all grab this rope, and I'm going to try to bring you out of this canyon wall. Because the chopper couldn't land. It hit the wall and everything. So he lowered the rope down. As he lowered the rope down, all 10 people rushed to it, and they grabbed the rope, and the chopper lifted up to try to get him out of the canyon wall. But then the pilots realized he can't clear the canyon wall because the load is too heavy. So he said, one of you is going to have to let go. So they all looked at each other, and immediately the veteran said, I'll let go. I'll be the first to do it. But before I do, though, I want to tell you why. He says, I've served my country proudly, with dignity and with pride, and with honor. I served on the battlefield. I was wounded, and I was awarded some of our country's highest medals in recognition of valor and honor. And when I came out of the service, I took my uniform off, and I went to school. And I carried 2 jobs, and I raised a family of 3 kids. I taught catechism class in my church, and I got involved in my community. And this veteran talked about loyalty, duty, honor, sacrifice, patriotism, core values that were instilled in him by the world's greatest country. And he got them all excited. And when he was done talking about patriotism and honor, they all applauded. Man, this is a smart group. You got it. And so the chopper lifted out with a veteran hanging on. See, my point is the veteran is creative. He's entrepreneurial. He knows how to survive. Give him a chance. I don't want to have you hear what I heard one time. A veteran said to me, John, I'd be glad to, because I said, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. He said, I would if I had the boots. Let's give them the boots. Let's give them the tools. Reach out to them. They're there ready to help you. I guarantee it. If they help build and save this country, 1% of the population is wearing the uniform today, and they're protecting our borders so we all can sleep comfortably to enjoy the free enterprise system and do what we do here today, then we owe it to them. Let's do that. I wanted to cram so much into what I wanted to tell you, but I just wanted to try to excite you to the fact my veterans, your veterans, are a resource to this country. They're the greatest resource we have, and because of them, this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. God bless you, and thank you for everything you were doing.
See, Mr. Garcia got us all applauding there. We've all fallen off the rope now. Thank you. Mr. Ortiz.
Oh yeah, like I'm supposed to follow that. Thanks a lot. You know, as you notice, as it got down, it got progressively better. So I'm like the last end Charlie over here, or tail end Charlie. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely honored and privileged to be in front of you all. Never in my wildest dreams did I think a young man from Puerto Rico would be in front of all you all, and you are my heroes. You are the people that take care of our heroes, and that's the most important piece. I want to give you, everybody's kind of told you what the veteran brings to you and everything else. I want to tell you something about a veteran. I want to give you a story where you can imagine who these young men and women are. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 28 years in the Marine Corps. I've been all over the world, done all sorts of crazy things. But it's not a big deal. I'm the son of a Marine. I'm the brother of a Marine, a sailor, and a soldier. I am the father of 3 Marines and 1 sailor. My sons have 10 tours. My sons have 10 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. As a military man, I understand what it's like to serve. I'm a veteran of 4 wars. As a father, having your sons go in harm's way, that's a different story. Let me tell you a story of a young man. I just went to Walter Reed yesterday with my secretary, and by the way, my secretary sends her biggest regards because you guys, as John said, are the point. And she wants you to know that because she really cares about what we do with our veterans. I went to Walter Reed yesterday and I saw some wonderful young men and young ladies in uniform taking care of what we do and what we're able to do right this moment. But I got to tell you a story about a young man that I met down in, I met him down in the Intrepid Center in San Antonio, Texas. This young man, I walked in and he was sitting on this chair and he had a Yankees ball cap on, tied to the side. You know, whether you like the Yankees or not, just bear with me. He's got a cap side on the side like this, and he's got a pair of headphones. He's listening to his iPod, and he's just rocking. And I walked up. He had no idea I was even there, but he just continued, had his eyes closed, and did his thing. He saw me. He smiled. And he said, "How you doing, sir?" And I said, "I'm doing all right." And then they called him. They said, "Sergeant Garcia, come on up." No reflection, no, just, "Sergeant Garcia, it's your turn." Sergeant Garcia gets up, walks into this room, and I had the pleasure of being able to follow him and watch what he was doing. He's getting a therapy. He sits down on this table that's about as big as this. 2 doctors, 2 nurses, 1 doctor on the top, 2 nurses on the bottom, and the other doctor monitoring. 2 nurses grab his legs, and the doctor goes on top. Oh, did I tell you? He's 90% burnt from his head to his toes. And he's got black mesh across his face. The only thing you see is the eyes and the nose and this beautiful, beautiful smile. And he lays there on this table. And the doctor reaches and starts pulling on his skin. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. That is the most painful thing you could ever imagine. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've done all sorts of stuff, but that it doesn't come near the amount of pain. And Sergeant Garcia laid there for 15 minutes as they did this, crocodile tears pouring out his face. And not one moment did he scream. Not one moment did he say anything until he tapped out. And they all released him right away. Sergeant Garcia got up, grabbed that Yankee cap, put it on, turned it to the side, grabbed his earphones, put him back on, went over and sat in a corner for about 5 minutes listening to his music, and then went and did this for another 2 hours. These are your veterans. These are our kids. I'm here to talk to you about all sorts of different programs that the federal government has, especially the Department of Labor. I can tell you all of these different programs and everything, but I want you to understand who is it that you're taking care of. I want you to understand the type of individuals that are taking care of us. The young men and women, our sons and daughters, that are taking care of us. And why I am so passionate about this. Why all of us on this panel are so passionate about it. Because they deserve it. Not because it's the right thing, not because they earned it, it's because they deserve it. And we need to do everything humanly possible to take care of these young men and women. Because that one story is just one story. There are thousands like it. Talk to your veterans. They'll tell you. Our job at the Department of Labor is to prepare, provide, and protect. We prepare our transitioning service members as they get out by giving them what we call the the Transition Assistance Program, a transition program that includes an employment workshop. What does employment workshop do? It helps them to prepare them to find employment outside. That's our job. Help them with their resumes, teach them how to do certain things. Listen, that program is 20 years old. We have finally revamped it with the help of our partners in VA, the Education Department, and all sorts of different other departments, and DOD directly, in order to give them the tools they need to be successful. We provide them the resources that they need, and let me tell you, one of the resources that I want to make sure that I emphasize to you is we have 2,800 one-stop career centers throughout the nation, in your cities. We also have directors of veterans employment and local veterans employment representatives in your cities. I think John and Mayor Lewis said it perfectly. If you don't know who they are, look for them. They will help you. They will open up opportunities that you need. As these gentlemen and ladies have said already, they are a resource to you. We can help you. We can help you do certain things to help you out. TAP is just one piece. The employment services, the one-stop shops throughout the country, we have them there. They're your state workforce agencies. They're in your cities. Take advantage of it. There's a few things that are specifically for the veterans. One is called the Veterans Gold Card. Any individual that leaves the service today, any 9/11 individual that leaves the service today, has an opportunity, as soon as they go through the employment workshop, they're giving this this certificate or this gold card. You remember how American Express used to have the gold card, never leave home without it? We figured we might as well do something like that to get them into the employment workshops. Because what this does for those individuals is it gives them 6 months of intensive service to help them find a job. In other words, Mayor McMillan and I are going to become very close friends for 6 months until I get her a job. It's a great opportunity, and it's great for you because you have an individual coming in that you can help, and it's a resource to you. Another one is My Next Move for Veterans. These are things that they can go online and do what needs to be done. My Next Move for Veterans, what it does is it's those young men and women that are trying to stay in certain places. And Mayor Lewis can understand this greatly because there's a lot of young men and women that are in Washington and say, you know what, I like Washington. Been in Washington, I kind of like it too. Unfortunately, I'm here. But that's the idea is it's an opportunity for them to be able to put their MOSs in, their military occupational specialties, look at what they have. It pops up the civilian equivalent to it, and then on top of that, it gives them information, what they need in order to be successful in that civilian job. On top of that, it gives them all the information that they need to put in their resume. It also tells them how much they would make if they meet all these requirements. But wait, there's more. At the bottom of it, there's a little button that says, let's just say that for some reason in Washington State, that job or that specific occupation is not available. They can look at other states and it'll show them exactly what's available. But wait, there's one more thing. If there is a job, they can actually apply online right there. That's a resource for them prior to them coming out. Why? Because if they decide not to be in Major Lewis's city, it may end up in yours. His loss, your gain. The last thing that I want to kind of emphasize to you all is you have veteran service organizations throughout the country. A lot of them are in your city. Use them. They will help you. They know how to find those people. Talk to them to help our veterans get the benefits they need. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been out of the Marine Corps now for almost 10 years. I have yet to get my benefits. I have yet to go to the VA hospital. Why? Because I'm a Marine. I take care of myself. I do what needs to be done. I have 4 sons who have kicked me in the butt now and said, you need to get your happy butt in gear. So John and I are going to have a very long conversation after this one to make sure I get that little nice card with my, flag and everything. I like that. The biggest thing I want to tell you all is our young men and women are an asset. They are a resource. But let me tell you what's the greatest thing about them. They have been taught to be great. They have been taught to be successful. That is who they are. That is what they're all about. They are not damaged goods, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you because I have 4 of them, and my knuckleheads are not damaged goods. They're mine. The only damage that's happened is when I've taken care of them. These are phenomenal assets, and they will help you, your cities, your companies, your organizations become great. You know what? It would be a catastrophe if we don't take advantage of that. Thank you all, and God bless you all.
Mayor Lewis, you have a quick comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have one comment I felt necessary to make. The Veterans Administration, the Department of Labor, have put out a call for a partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. They asked for a meeting with the U.S. Conference to talk about what could be done for the future of our cities and the future of our veterans. We are a platform nationally where we can work together to help our veterans, to help those who defended us, but at the same time, to help our cities and our community through this new partnership. We have to make mention of the fact that this partnership, these doorways have been open for us. And we must step through. We must set up a forum so that we can work together, the cities of the nation, the Veterans Administration, the Department of Labor, and all the other organizations that have their hand out to take it in ours, to work together for our veterans, to work together for our cities. This is exactly the time when our organizations need to come together for the benefit of us all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Cooper.
Thank you.
Mayor McKelvin, Mayor Lewis, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Ortiz. Let's give them one big hand. Again. We appreciate their statements. There's no doubt that our veterans are real assets and resources for our communities. And if mayors are good at one thing, it's identifying assets and resources and taking advantage of them. So I agree. Let's make sure we do that. Would like to thank those on the panel, and would also now like to turn the time over to our president, Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, for the next session, the next item on the agenda, which is the resolutions. Mayor Villaraigosa.
I want to thank Mayor Smith for leading that very important discussion regarding our nation's veterans. Business meeting will come to order. Now, today we'll consider resolutions which, when passed, will become the official policy of the Conference of Mayors. The first item of business is to call for any new resolutions. So any mayor member may propose a new resolution which will require a 2/3 vote to permit its consideration, and any such new resolutions will be considered after the resolutions from the standing committee. And I believe there is someone standing.
Yes, Mr. President.
Please identify yourself.
This is Robert Sabanjan, City of Waukegan, Illinois. And I bring to you today a resolution. It hopefully will not be too controversial, honoring the life of Ray Bradbury, who was born in the city of Waukegan. And I request its inclusion into our
Is there a
resolutions
second?
for the day.
By unanimous consent. So be it.
Thank you.
I also have a resolution. I move, let me get a copy of it. Where's the, Leslie? Somebody? No. This is the Simpson Bowles? Members, you know, it came to me after hearing all of the speakers, both here in Washington at our winter meeting, and actually last year in Baltimore, before the debacle around the full faith and credit of the United States of America, that we still have not opined on the issue of finding a middle ground to resolving this. And so I'd like to call on our leaders in Washington to approve a comprehensive, balanced deficit reduction plan. Mr. Parliamentarian, do I read it now or just introduce it? And we can talk about it later, but I'm like your consent to do that. Is there? Moved by Stephanie Rollins, seconded by Michael Nutter, and without objection, such will be the order. Okay, today we will consider resolutions which, when passed, will become, as I said, the official, yes, another new resolution, excuse me.
Sorry, I was waving
Mayor
my card at you.
Stephanie Rollins Blake.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to move to have reconsideration of Resolution 63 in support of EPA mercury and air toxin standards for power plants.
Moved by Stephanie Rollins Blake, seconded by Michael Nutter. Without objection? Such will be the order. We will now consider the resolutions from the standing committees. Resolutions will be considered committee by committee in the order listed in the resolutions book, which you have before you, and I have before me somewhere. Here we go. The procedure will be as follows. First, the chair of each committee or designee will make a brief, did you hear that? A brief presentation of that committee's resolutions and then move for their adoption. Then I will ask if any member, mayor, wants to have an individual resolution pulled for special consideration. Once the resolutions to be pulled have been identified and set aside, we'll vote on the remaining resolutions for that committee as a block. We'll go through the procedure for all standing committees. Then we'll have discussion on all the resolutions pulled for special consideration, followed by a separate vote on each one. If parliamentary issues should arise during the meeting, we have a professional parliamentarian present who will be able to assist us in resolving them. His name is Tim Wynn, to my right. Beginning, Children, Health, and Human Services. The chair recognizes Mayor James Schmidt of Green Bay, chair of the Children, Health, and Human Services Committee, and Father Extraordinaire. Mr. Schmidt? And unless I identify you, I'll ask you to identify yourself when you ask to speak. But
all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Extraordinaire. My name is Jim Schmidt. I'm the mayor of Green Bay, Wisconsin. I chair the Children, Health, and Human Services Committee. And we met on Thursday, June 14th, and considered 15 resolutions. 12 were submitted in a timely fashion, and 3 were introduced by the committee. The committee approved and reported out 14 of the 15 resolutions. For the record, Mr. Mayor, we did not approve Resolution 12, which was the resolution relating to the medical cannabis. That failed in our committee. I understand it's being taken up later in a different committee. So with that said, the committee is reporting out the following resolutions, 1 through 11, 116, 117, and 118. And I, Mr. President, I move for adoption of those stated resolutions.
Mayor Schmidt has moved his report for adoption. It's been seconded by Mayor Ortiz. Mayor Ortiz, rather. Aorta. My heart is beating. The question is on the adoption of the resolutions from the Children's Health and Human Services Committee. Would any mayor member like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? Hearing none. The resolutions, I'll now call for a vote on the package as amended. All those in favor say yay. All opposed say nay. You love those old English. Why not yes and no, right? The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Community Development and Housing. Next up is Newton Mayor Seti Warren, one of our great stars, Chair of the Community Development and Housing Committee. Mayor Warren.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership. The Community Development and Housing Committee met on June 14th to consider 9 resolutions submitted in a timely manner. Resolution 14 was combined into Resolution 13. The committee adopted 1 new resolution. I move the adoption of the following resolutions: 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 11, 19, 20, and 119.
Question is on been moved by Mayor Warren, seconded by Mayor Benjamin. Adoption of, would any mayor like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote on the package as amended. All those in favor say yay. Yay. All opposed say nay. The yeas have it. Thank you, Mayor Warren. The Criminal and Social Justice Committee. Now call our trustee, Arlington Heights Mayor Arlene Mulder, Vice Chair of the Criminal and Social Justice Committee. Mayor Mulder.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Criminal and Social Justice Committee met on June 13th to consider 23 resolutions submitted in a timely manner. Resolution number 35 was combined into resolution number 34. As you know, yesterday the President announced that the administration will allow DREAM Act eligible students to apply for deferred action, granting them protection against deportation and the ability to get work authorization. I am pleased to report today that this is exactly what one of our resolutions called for. I now move adoption of resolutions number 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 8, 7, 12, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 120.
The resolutions have been moved by Mayor Mulder, seconded by Stephanie Rawlings Blake. I now call for a vote on the package. You want to pull 12, I'm sorry. So 12 has been pulled. I now call on a vote on the package with 12 pulled. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Opposed, nay. The yeas have it and the resolutions are passed. The energy, I now call on, I don't believe he's here, Miguel Pulido, is he here? Who is the Vice Chair of the Energy Committee? Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. President. Shane Bemis, Mayor of Gresham, Oregon. The Energy Committee met on June 14th, and we reported out the following resolutions. Resolution 41, 42, 18, 11, 19, 43, 44, 45, 92, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 51. Thank you, Mr. President. I move consideration of those resolutions.
Question is on the adoption of the resolutions from the Energy Committee. Would any member, mayor, like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay. Opposed, nay. The yeas have it. And the resolutions are passed. I now call on great mayor from Hallandale Beach, Joy Cooper, chair of the Environment Committee, for her report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Joy Cooper from Hallandale Beach. I'm chair of the Environmental Committee, which we met on June 13th. At the committee meeting, Resolutions 57 was combined with Resolution 56. Resolution 55 was withdrawn, and Resolution 63 was postponed. The committee reported out the following resolutions: 41, 19, 43, 48, 52 through 54, 56, 3, and 58 through 62. I move for their adoption, Mr. President.
Been moved by Ms. Mulder. I'm sorry, Ms. Cooper, and how's looking over there? And seconded by Mr. Nutter. Without objection, such will be the order. Would any member, mayor, like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. The yeas have it.
I did not know they
Now, international affairs. I now call on Mayor Juan Carlos Bermudez of Doral for the report on the International Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your work on behalf of the organization. The International Affairs Committee met on Wednesday, June 13th, and passed the following 7 resolutions, number 65, 66, 64, 67, 68, 69, and 48. The committee also considered and passed the following new resolution, number 121. We request adoption of these resolutions. Thank you.
Question is on the adoption of the resolutions from the International Affairs Committee. Would any member, mayor, like any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay. All opposed, nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Jobs, education, and the workforce. My good friend, West Sacramento Mayor Christopher Cabaldon, Vice Chair of the Jobs, Education, and Workforce Committee. Mr. Cabaldon?
Mr. President.
Okay.
Francisco Ortiz here.
Ortiz, how are you, my friend?
Sorry. I've been asked to give the report, sir. Hola.
So be it.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Thank you.
I love him.
Mr. President, the Jobs, Education, and Workforce Standing Committee met on Wednesday, June 13, and reports out the following resolutions: 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 65, and 122. Mr. Chair, I move for their adoption.
Been moved by Mr. Ortiz, seconded by Mr. Cabaldon. Would any member, mayor, like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say, I'm sorry. Please identify yourself.
Tony Sudolari, Mayor of the City of Sunnyvale. I'd like to pull Resolution 80.
Resolution
80.
80. Resolution 80 has been pulled. Now call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay. Can't hear you. All those opposed say nay. The yeas have it. I now call on, this is Metro Economies, the great mayor of Louisville, Kentucky. Greg Fisher, Chair of the Metro Economies Committee. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would like to wish you in advance a happy Father's Day, and same to all the fathers here, and thank the conference for scheduling this so we can all get home for Father's Day.
Yeah. And I hope we do that every year, by the way, everybody. This is an organization of family values. Being with our kids are important. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Vice Chair Mayor Dickert from Racine for his able work this year. The Metro Economies Committee met on Thursday, June 14th, and we adopted 18 resolutions. Those resolutions appear in your packets as resolutions 84 through 101. The committee also adopted one new resolution, which appears on page 278 as Resolution 123. The new resolution urges support for the American Community Survey. As you know, this survey replaces the census long form, which provides critical data that all levels of government and the private sector depend on for planning the future of our communities. This data is also used for allocation of hundreds of billions of dollars in federal funds to state and local governments every year. There are efforts underway in Washington to reduce or eliminate funds for this important information, and we need to be on record expressing our support of the resolution. Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of these resolutions.
The question is on the adoption of the resolutions from the Metro Economies Committee. Would any member mayor like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? And I'll call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay. Yay. All those opposed say nay. The yeas have it. I can see you getting your coffee now, huh, because you're starting to speak up. Good. I want to hear it. Tapes. Next, we'll hear from Rochester Mayor Ardell Brady for a report on the Tourism, Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Sports Committee, otherwise known as TAPES.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aren't you glad that we added tourism on the front of that long title?
Yes.
I'm Ardell Brady, Mayor of Rochester, Minnesota. On behalf of
Early in the morning.
On behalf of our chair, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, the Tourism, Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Sports Committee reports out the following resolutions: 32, 33, 68, 81, 102 through 109, and 124. I move for their adoption.
Any resolution to be considered separately? Question is on the adoption of the resolutions from the Tourism, Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Sports Committee. Would any member mayor like any of these resolutions considered separately? I now call for a vote. On the package. All those in favor say yay. Yay. All those opposed, nay. The yeas have it. Transportation and communication. Final report will be given by Oak Park Mayor David Pope, Vice Chair of the Transportation and Communications Committee. Mayor Pope.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of Mayor Reed, the chair of our committee, and all the members of the committee, I want to report that on June 13th we met and approved the following resolutions: Resolution 42, 49, 52, 66, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, and 115. It's my pleasure to note that these were all approved unanimously, and I would move consideration of these resolutions, Mr. President.
The question is on the adoption of the Transportation and Communications Committee. Would any member mayor like to have any of these resolutions considered separately? And I'll call for a vote on the package. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. The yeas have it. And the resolutions are passed. Now, the consideration of the pulled resolution. The next item of business is consideration of resolutions that have been set aside for separate consideration. Those are item 12 and item 80. These resolutions will be taken up in numerical order. The question is now on the adoption of Resolution 12. And due to time constraints, if there is no objection, debate on the resolution will be limited to 5 minutes unless the body asks otherwise. Who'd like to speak on this pulled resolution? Mayor Schmidt?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 12 is the resolution calling for the reclassification of medical cannabis. That did not pass at our committee. It actually died for the lack of a second. And you know, you guys are going to vote the way you see this resolution. But our committee, and I want to speak for them, saw this as kind of pre-endorsing the idea of reclassification. So I would like to, Mr. Chairman, is just offer an amendment. As you say as it states in the now therefore be it resolved that the DEA to initiate rulemaking proceedings for the reclassification. I think they can consider reclassification. So to amend it, it's taking out the word for and put to consider, I think that's appropriate. But I just don't. I think to be so predetermined on approving this. I'm not comfortable with it, so I would offer the amendment to consider versus for.
Mayor Cobbledon?
I think I need a second on that to have it moved.
Yeah, I believe he's your second. No, I'm not. No, you're not.
He's not.
I apologize.
I know him.
Seconded by Mayor Sabanjan. Would you please, yes, 1 second. Would you please repeat your changes?
All right, my amendment asks for, in the now therefore be it resolved, line 3, rulemaking proceedings to consider instead of for. To consider reclassification instead of for the reclassification. That softens it.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak on the amendment, if I may. Christopher
Yes.
Cabalden, Mayor of the City of West Sacramento. I know for a lot of folks this is an issue of ideology or personal philosophy, who see this either as a potential way to open the door to legalization or see it as a threat to opening the door to legalization. As a mayor grappling with this in California, it is not either of those. It is a fundamental challenge of a mismatch between state law and federal law, and the people left holding the bags are the cities. So under current state laws all across the country today, medical use of cannabis is allowed under often very, very ambiguous rules. Under federal law, it's still strictly prohibited, except that the federal government has said in many cases we won't prosecute. So there's this tremendous legal ambiguity that cities have to deal with. Well, it's illegal, but we have an application for somebody who wants to dispense it. And the state says it's legal, the federal government says it's illegal. Can we grant that application? What zoning rules do apply? What are our cops supposed to do? We need clarity around these issues, regardless of what you think about the issue. And then secondly, standalone dispensaries to issue only one sort of drug are exactly the wrong solution. I'm not interested in having a separate operation, a separate retail outlet for every single drug in the country. We have dispensaries that are selling marijuana in the form of Rice Krispie treats, which we would not do with any other medical prescription drug. Medical cannabis needs to be issued by prescription. The prescription process, that can only happen if this occurs. And so consideration isn't enough. We need clarity at the city level to be able to exercise our land use and police powers effectively to protect our citizens without exposing ourselves to the legal liability of potentially being compliant in the violation of a federal law. This is an essential step forward.
And to be clear, the change is going from the United States Conference of Mayors supports the Gregoire Chafee petition and urges the DEA to initiate rulemaking procedures instead of saying for the reclassification of medical cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 to consider the reclassification, so that we're clear. That's the difference here. for or to consider. Mayor, yes. Well, who's the resolution sponsor? Mayor Strickland?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, and good morning. And thank you, Mayor Calderon, for your words. When the desire to change the language to soften it defeats the whole purpose. Because when you read the resolution, it says that the U.S. Conference of Mayors supports it. And we either support it or we don't. And I think softening it takes away the purpose of it. As stated earlier, this is not about opening the door to legalizing marijuana. This is providing clarity, because there is such difference between federal law, state law, and local application of how this works. I have my planning commission trying to figure out land use rules to manage this process. Dispensaries are popping up all over neighborhoods, unregulated, out of control. This sets a very clear line about medical use and separates it from recreational use. There is also a crime prevention aspect that comes with this as well. In 1998, 60% of Washington State residents approved use of medical cannabis for people who actually need it. 24 states have it either pending or have approved it already. If your state does not fall into that category, and there are 26 of you, this doesn't apply to you. What this does is it moves medical cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 and allows the DEA to find a way to provide the medicine for the patients who need it. This creates an opportunity for pharmacies to sell it like regular medicine, so we don't have dispensaries popping up all over our neighborhoods. This is a public safety issue. It's also an opportunity for us to, again, put a clear line between recreational use and medicinal use. This has been approved by the American Medical Association and the American Physicians Association, so I urge us to please go ahead and support this, written as is. Thank you.
Members, time is up. Would you like me to extend it another 5 minutes? Without objection, we will not do that then. And so the vote is on to amend or not, and that would be to consider instead of saying for. Someone want to move the amendment? Who's moving the amendment? The amendment's been moved by Mayor Schmidt. Is there a second? It's already been considered. That's correct. So, all those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? The nays have it. And so the amendment fails. So on the resolution, all those in favor say yay. All those opposed, nay. The yeas have it. Thank you very much. Item 80, pulled resolution. Please identify yourself, whoever has pulled that resolution.
Tony Spitaleri, Mayor of the City of Sunnyvale.
From Sunnyvale.
The home of Silicon Valley. On Resolution 80, and I'll just direct you to, if I can, to the Resolve 10, there's a sentence in there that requires the reform of the current H-1B visa programs to increase the number of technology workers. This is a highly controversial issue in our area. It's designed to allow employment of individuals from other countries to fill positions in this area if the company at the time does not have the ability to fill that position from United States citizens. It's been a question of various companies abusing the system. I've asked the author, or asked to speak to the author, to understand what he meant by reforming the current H-1B visas. I've asked twice during this conference, and twice have not received a response back from Mayor Lee of San Francisco. I need to know what is meant by reforming the current H-1B visa. This is too general. So I would suggest that not to eliminate this, but if we could possibly hold this over to our winter session to where we could deal with that, if that's possible, if not, to our next summer session. This is just too broad of a language. It has a lot of implications. This has been issues for our congressional leaders in the state of California. If we cannot do that, then I would request that we remove that sentence from that, be it further resolved.
As I understand it, you can't move it to the next session. You can only defeat it. So there's...
Well, then I'll make an amendment, if I may, that be further resolved that the sentence reform the current H-1B visa programs to increase the number of technology workers be removed from that paragraph. And I ask that because, again, as I said, I have asked staff to contact Mayor Lee. I was told that I would be contacted to have this discussion, and to date I've had no discussion. And I cannot support something that's so general like that, that has a tremendous impact in my area. And so for some of you folks in this room, in my area, in Silicon Valley, I have the home of Google, the home of Apple. I have all the major corporations.
What is it exactly that you want to take out? Because
the sentence that says...
Historically, this has been something that, as a general notion, this conference has been in support of. But what is it specifically that you take umbrage with?
It just says reform the current H-1B visa program. It doesn't tell me how it's going to be reformed. There's no information. I'm supporting a line that says reform it. I want to know what the intent was, what was the mayor thinking about, and what was he going to change to reform this program.
So do you have a specific amendment, or you just...
No, I wanted more information before I could support this. And again, as I said, Mr. President, I've asked repeatedly, and I was told repeatedly I would have a conversation. I've not had that conversation to date. And if I'd had a better clarification of
essentially, you're speaking against the resolution.
No, I'm not speaking against the entire resolution. I'm speaking against one sentence in the resolve.
Yes. I understand, but
so if it needs an amendment to remove that sentence, I can do that.
If there's a motion to remove that whereas, and there's a second, you can do that.
Well, why don't I do this? Why don't I, where it says to be further resolved, I will amend it to remove the sentence, reform the current H-1B visa programs to increase the number of technology workers. That would be my amendment to this resolution, to remove that one sentence.
What would the effect of... Hey, Ed, what's the effect of... Okay, so let's go through that resolve says, be it further resolved that the United States Conference of Mayors will support and advocate for legislation that spurs national innovation through reformed immigration policies which will help American companies attract and retain the best and the brightest by providing green cards for advanced degree graduates in STEM fields from American universities, create a new green card category for entrepreneurs who establish a new startup business, reform the current H-1B visa programs. I think he makes it pretty clear, to increase the number of technology workers.
No, it doesn't make it clear. It says reform the program. I want to know how they're going to reform the program to increase those, because we've had a lot of violations of companies in our area, and it's hurt our American workers. I have a council member who is a scientist who teaches at Stanford University, and he can't get a job. And we raise these questions with our congressional leaders, and I know the companies are asking for more.
Is there a second to support you? I'm sorry? I can't hear you. Mayor MacArthur, St. George, Utah, seconds the proposed amendment to strike, reform the current H-1B visa program to increase the number of technology workers. All in favor, say yay.
Question.
We can't table, one second. We can't table it, apparently. We have to vote it up or down, the amendment. Mayor Goodman?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that appropriate, Mr. Parliamentarian and Mr. President? My question is, in that information of the H-1B visa program, was not that visa program the one that allowed students or people who are here currently not to have to return to their own countries? That was not the same. The clarity of the it's a different visa. Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, there's a, yes. Identify yourself, please.
Yes, my name is Craig Lowe, Mayor of Gainesville, Florida, and I rise in opposition to the amendment. Actually, Gainesville, Florida is a community that is very much interested in the innovation economy, as is the community of Mayor Lee. This amendment really puts in jeopardy our economic development goals, and that actually we are a global city. We're a fairly small city, but
Great city.
Thank you, but we are attracting companies from around the world. They will be wanting to bring their people with them from countries like India, and also we are a global community in that we are a university community, and we cannot allow for a lack of qualified people to inhibit economic development in our cities across the country. So I ask that we oppose the amendment and support the resolution as originally submitted. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. You can speak twice on this amendment. Would you like to respond?
Mayor John Marchand, City of Livermore. I support the amendment. One of the things that's been very clear is that we're trying to put Americans back to work. It does not serve our purpose if we're bringing people into the country when we have very qualified American technology workers that are qualified to step up and take those jobs. So I would support the amendment until we get clarity, because I think one of the things we've talked about throughout this entire conference is the creation of jobs. And it does not serve our American workers if we're creating jobs and bringing in people from out of the country to fill those jobs.
By unanimous consent, I'll extend it another 5 minutes. Members, Mayor Cobbledon. I'm sorry, and then over here.
It's my weak voice. Mr. President, this resolution was considered and approved unanimously in the Jobs, Education, and the Workforce Committee. The reason why we didn't have a more extensive language around this issue is that this conference has adopted prior resolutions with much more expansive, elaborated points of view around precisely these issues and the balance between supporting American companies, supporting American universities, and precisely the issues that my colleague has raised. And so we have existing policy that already details what the conference points of view are on the whole H-1B visa issue that attempts to draw that balance more finely. As Mayor Bloomberg has said, it's economic suicide to bring the best and the brightest from around the world, train them at our universities, and then say, you've got to go home now to compete against us. And that's why this issue is an important one. And I share your concern about just this specific language, but I think we've dealt with that by having a solid bank of existing conference policy that already spells out the details.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mayor, and thank you so much for your work in this area. I'm going to try to clarify the issue for the mayor. I think it's very clear. Those of us in the immigration world have been fighting with Congress, trying to increase the number of visas that are issued to H-1Bs. And the problem with the H-1Bs, a lot of people are applying for it, but there's not enough visas given to those folks that qualify. And I think one of the issues that was raised by a previous mayor is that American jobs will be taken by foreigners. This is not the purpose of H-1B. The purpose of H-1B was created basically where you cannot find no willing American workers to do the work. And if that element has been satisfied, then you would look elsewhere to bring those people to the United States to do that kind of work. So I think, those two issues is basically to increase the number of workers that can get H-1Bs, which I think Congress is fighting on those issues, and Congress is trying to bring that number up to date? And secondly, it's only for when you have willing American workers to do the work.
President.
Please identify yourself.
Oh, yes. Andrew Kayak, City of San Jacinto, California. I'd like to bring a little different perspective to this argument. After I got out of the military, while I was using my GI Bill to go to school, I got pulled into Silicon Valley and the dot-com period and worked for a number of these companies, Intel, PRI Automation, Brooks Automation, KLA-Tencor, numerous different ones in that region, Silicon Valley. And the visa program that I saw with them was not only to pull in qualified workers, but a lot of these companies are international, global companies around the world in a lot of different nations, and they're using our location to also train those workforces from Ireland. I worked with the Middle East, around the world. So this is also an opportunity when we hear the Department of Commerce with tourism and travel coming in international foreign trade, our foreign trade zones, where this program is of benefit. And if we don't support the companies, I mean, if they're hiring these workers, you need to listen to these companies and where they're going. And if they're saying they want these workers and they want them to come to the U.S. to train and work and then send them back out, we need to listen to that. And I'm in full support of the resolution just as it stands because of that purpose.
Yes. We're still debating the amendment, everybody, and I want to be that clear. We're closing in on the second 5 minutes, and I'll give that the last to Mayor James.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sly James, Mayor of Kansas City. I oppose the amendment, and I oppose the amendment because I disagree with the basic premise that the amendment somehow interferes with or inhibits the ability to employ American workers. I think, frankly, just the opposite. I think that by recognizing the existence of a global economy and the need to stimulate and provide adequate and well-trained workers for those technical industries that we already have, we stimulate those industries so that they can grow and employ additional American workers. Part of the growth in the American economy has been in entrepreneurism, smaller businesses that start up. We should not do things that inhibit or prohibit or interfere with entrepreneurism, whether the entrepreneurial enterprises are started by people in California, native born, or whether it's somebody from another country who happens to be here and starts a company. The whole idea here is to recognize that we are not creating, because of our deficient and ignored educational system, an adequate supply of STEM and tech workers to supply our technical companies. And until we recognize that we have to do something on the educational level to address that, we are going to have to make sure that we have people from someplace else who can. This does not hurt American workers. It helps American workers, because without that technical expertise in companies around this country, there won't be enough jobs created.
I'll let the mayor of Sunnyvale conclude this portion of our debate.
Yeah, it's on? It's on? Okay. I want to make it clear, I'm not against H-1B visas. And this conversation has gone off in a whole different direction. If the mayor's conference has a plan or a policy on dealing H-1B visas, fine. My question is here, it says to reform. I don't know what the mayor's conference points on H-1B visas, quite honestly, that they support. But this says reform. And I'm not against the H-1B visas program. I'm not against filling those positions with workers that don't want the job and it's not available. But it's become a very serious issue in my area.
Yeah,
our demographics have changed tremendously, and we've asked repeatedly for regulations to make sure that companies abide by that. So it's not about not supporting the system. I just don't have enough information in this that says, what does reform mean?
Okay, that's been duly noted. We've moved the motion. It's been seconded, and I want to remind you that this did pass unanimously out of committee. So with that, this amendment is moved and seconded. All in favor say yay. Opposed? Say nay. The nays have it. On the original resolution, moved by Mayor, we already have the motion. And so on the original, all in favor say yay. Opposed, nay. The yeas have it. And now it is time for new resolutions. I believe Mayor Rawlings Blake has one.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution was originally considered, and there were some questions that were that couldn't be answered, and we've worked subsequent to that committee meeting to work out some of the details. So the resolution that is before you and us right now is an amended version in support of what the EPA is already doing. Baltimore suffers from high levels of heart disease, asthma, and cancer, and the mercury and air toxins are known to contribute to these health outcomes that we are striving very hard to improve in our city. So I would ask, I would make a motion to approve this amendment.
Been moved and seconded by Mayor Cooper. We need a 2/3 vote, and without objection, we'll consider it. Yes. Question?
Thank you. Dave Berger from the city of Lima, Ohio. This did come up in the Environment Committee, and I think the issue that was raised was in the context of other concerns that the conference has had about unfunded mandates on cities. So I'm particularly interested in whether any of the sponsors or whether any of the others here, mayors of cities that own electric utilities and have a perspective about this, whether this is an unfunded mandate that we are now asking for.
I think I own, or the city of Los Angeles owns, the largest public utility in the United States of America, and we support this resolution. We don't consider it an unfunded mandate. I don't think there's a bigger city that owns a public utility. We support this resolution because these mercury and air toxic standards are very, very important to protecting the public health as well. And so we have a dual responsibility. But I don't know if anybody else likes to speak to that. Mayor Cooper?
Now it is. Thank you. Yes, as chair in the Environmental Committee, I think we did raise questions and there was concerns as to some of the specifics. So if you bear with me, I might be able to share some clarity.
Sure.
Because we're not changing something that happened, something that's happened already. This is just empowering it to take it the one step further. In 1993, industry sectors made up 2/3 of the total mercury emissions in the nations. They included medical waste incinerators, municipal waste combustors, waste to energy, and power plants. The first two sectors have already had to comply with mercury air toxic rules and have reduced their mercury emissions by 95%. EPA finalized the mercury and air toxin standards for power plants, MAT rules, in December 2011. It would impact 1,400 coal and oil-fired electric generating units, 600 power plants, and 200 megawatts or greater. This final rule will do the following. It will reduce mercury by 90%, reduce acid gas by 80%, and reduce sulfur dioxide emissions 41%. The other balanced benefit of that, and we always have to remember there's another side to the coin, that the health, as my esteemed colleague from Baltimore pointed out, the health benefits have been proven tremendous in making sure that we clean our air for our children and our children's children. So this is the next stop. The value of air quality improvements for the people's health alone totals $37 billion to $90 billion each year. So this is just the next phase of what we need to do in champion clean air rights throughout the country. So that's why I second the motion, and as chair, it was difficult for me to monitor those discussions. So thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Please
identify
Robert Sabanjan, City of Waukegan.
I'm sorry, can you please identify?
Yes, Robert Sabanjan, City of Waukegan.
Yes.
We have an old coal-fired plant right on our lakefront. And as many of our cities are located in states with an aging power infrastructure, we have to recognize that this issue is a double-edged sword. One, I support it, just so we get that off the, I'm in full support of this. But we also have to recognize that this EPA initiative is going to force closure of a number of the older coal-fired plants across this country because of the fact that the amount of money required to invest in this is so high that many of the owners and operators of these plants are already making decisions to close them. So it's something that we have to keep in mind. And I think we are here right now because this country has never had an actual energy policy that makes sense and is long-term. And that's why we're dealing with this. We're falling off a cliff. And we could have turned and avoided this cliff years ago, but here we are. So we're going to make a decision here that's going to be tough. It's going to cost us all, but it has to be made.
Yes, please identify yourself.
Greg Ballard, Indianapolis. A lot of this was came from the Environmental Committee and probably, frankly, some from me because the resolution as originally proposed didn't make a lot of sense. It looked like we were just kind of rubber stamping the EPA, and those of us, actually most of you, 700 plus cities, have been going through issues with the EPA on the water side with unfunded mandates and how harsh that has been and the schedule of compliance and on and on and on. I won't bore you with all those details. So that was original. All that said, a lot of the changes that have been made were made here in the back room about less than an hour ago, frankly. And I would be okay with this, but I would certainly understand with all the contention that has been going on with the EPA and the schedule with that it can be an issue for a lot of cities to be putting a imprimatur on the EPA standards when they have been rather onerous in other areas to all of us.
But if I understand the gravamen of what you're saying, Mayor Ballard, you did work out those issues, and you believe that this resolution addresses the concerns that you raised.
They certainly did address my concerns because I think it was basically a logic error that we were just rubber stamping the EPA. But I could certainly understand other mayors' concerns with what has been going on the other side.
Okay, so all in favor of the resolution? Yes, there's a motion to move. Stephanie Rawling Blake moved. Mayor Cooper seconded. All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. The next resolution, bipartisan resolution by myself and Mayor Smith, calling on leaders in Washington to approve a comprehensive, balanced deficit reduction plan. Should I have him
make the motion?
Should I?
Yeah, he can.
Is there someone who can make the motion? Mr. Ortiz moves. Mr. Smith seconds. Requires a 2/3 vote to consider. Without objection, yes.
Mr. President, I just wanted to raise one question, and I know as you introduced this, clearly you and Mayor Smith worked on this. This is an important resolution. I just wanted to raise the issue of, in the title, we talk about, the resolution rather talks about our leaders. I wanted to suggest that we might possibly more narrowly focus in on who we're talking about, and at least from my perspective, at the moment, since we're talking about this, what National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility Reform, better known as Simpson-Bowles, that this really is, at the moment, a matter for the Congress. The Congress needs to do something. They need to take action. And I wanted to suggest, hopefully a friendly amendment, that we would be calling on Congress in Washington to approve a comprehensive balanced deficit reduction
I would
plan.
consider that a friendly amendment. Members, you know, if I could speak on the motion, I will. You know, members, I couldn't be prouder of this organization and our mayors. I'm a Democrat, and I've been taking on pension reform, as many of you have been taking on pension reform. I'm a Democrat, and I've been taking on seniority and tenure. Many of the Republicans here have joined us unanimously supporting the DREAM Act, supporting comprehensive immigration reform. Mayors are different. We're living at a time when everyone knows the system is broken. The system is broken. It's partisanship. It's finger pointing. It's everybody sticking hard and fast to their positions and no one wanting to find a middle ground. The mayors of this country have to establish that there's a middle ground. Is it a perfect ground? No. There's no perfect. And as someone once said, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. And I am proposing this because, you know, it hit me. We haven't even addressed this issue, though in many of our press conferences we've said we're calling on the Congress to do something. You know, we've got to address entitlement reform. Everybody here knows that, or at least the vast majority of us know that. But we also got to deal with tax loopholes. We've got to deal with revenue. We're not proponents of the idea that we just cut and eviscerate government and not make investments. And I think this resolution is an important way to define who we are. We are different from those folks in the Beltway. We understand that tough, complex problems and challenges require compromise, require finding that middle ground, require the civility that we have demonstrated in all of our debates again and again and again. And so on that, for those reasons, I and my good colleague who I stand with so often, Mayor Smith, ask for your approval. Mayor Smith? Yes. Before you do.
Jim Schmidt from Green Bay. I happen to like the term calling on leaders. I think Congress is 435 people. I think they lack leadership. Mayors are leaders. One of the things I liked when I first read this was the term and the word leaders. That's what we need in D.C. You've been talking about Congress for the last year. It's too vanilla there. We need people to step up and lead. So
congressional leaders. That's all he changed.
You just put congressional in there. I thought you took out leaders and put Congress in there.
No. He said congressional leaders.
All right. Well, I stand corrected on that one.
Okay. Yeah, and but Mayor Smith?
I would say one thing. I don't want to quibble about it because I think there's enough finger pointing to go on, and I would agree with everything that's been said, except for, there's no doubt that we can sit here and the easiest thing in the world is to rail on Congress and their lack of action, and that's both the Senate and the House. This to me is not a partisan statement. I don't think we can completely leave the administration out of this. The administration does not have completely clean hands. They're part of the leadership. And I don't want to get into who's most to blame or not to blame because that plays right into the game that is played every day and the nightly news when they seem to get together and point fingers and blame at each other. And who knows what the real story is other than this is a team effort. We know that you have both branches that need to work together. There's no doubt that the House and the Senate, however they can get over their logjam, if that's even possible, we would love it. We would also love it if the three, I don't want to say three branches because I'd get corrected, the two branches with the Senate and the House and And the executive branch, I think there's things that they can all do. I would love to encourage them all to work together. And sometimes I think that we give one or the other a free pass. And that's not a criticism, that's just an observation. I think that's fact, that this is an effort that takes both branches of government to make happen, and to solve these problems is going to take work on both sides.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes. Please rise.
Mr. President, Mayor John Dickert from Racine, Wisconsin. I want to thank you for introducing this for two reasons. Number one, we as mayors deal with debt and deficit every day. Congress and our leaders in Washington should not be dealing with this when it's convenient. They should be dealing with this constantly. Number two, I'm glad you brought this up, because as we've been trying to tell Congress for years, when you're looking at the cuts, please look at the efficiencies that we've created. When you go and just randomly start cutting CDBG, but we have created partnerships and efficiencies that make those some of the best dollars spent in the country, you can't just randomly cut them. So I hope that because of this resolution, and I'm glad you introduced it, Mr. President, I appreciate your leadership on this issue, that our leaders look at these cuts for what they really are, in what the dollars are that they're cutting, because when they keep cutting those efficiencies, they're losing dollar for dollar. So thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate our leadership on this issue.
Yes. Please.
My name is Mayor Steve Ponto from Brookfield, Wisconsin. I want to speak in favor of what Mayor Smith just said about the fact that when we're calling on leaders, I think that's important to have it be that broad, to include the Congress and the executive branch. I think that if we're going to get resolution of these problems, it's going to have to include the administration. So I support Mayor Smith on this.
Mayor Benjamin.
Mr. President, also stand in support of this resolution and appreciate your leadership. I think there needs to be a sense of urgency injected in this. Maybe in the last sentence, the word immediately. The reality is that...
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Oh, yeah. The reality is that some folks think that Congress will come back in a lame duck session and address this. If this is going to take place January 3rd, I think Warrant Act notifications have to go out 60 days in advance or some. So
I will
we need
accept immediately as a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Ortis.
Real quick, Mr. President, thank you. I support the resolution. I asked a question in the panel the other day about jobs and everything, and the next day the president came out. It was in the paper, Orlando Sentinel, USA Today, exactly what we said at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Support the resolution, and I hope it passes.
Okay, without objection, we have one more.
Mr. President, I rise in support of the resolution as well. I would like to offer a friendly amendment in the spirit of Mayor Smith, whatever verbiage that you may deem, but somehow reference the President and the administration into the resolution. If you would accept that, Mr. President, as a friendly amendment.
Well, I think, Mayor Nutter, would you like to?
Well, I guess my reaction is that, and I listened very carefully to Mayor Smith, I mean, clearly there is enough responsibility, I'll leave it at that, to go around. This seems to me to be, though, a circumstance where we do need the Congress to act, and if somehow the executive subsequently doesn't do anything, then we as a conference should address that particular issue. For much of what we've been trying to get done here, there has been, and Democrat and Republican, there has been a frustration with, specifically at times, the Congress. That doesn't mean that people aren't at times frustrated with the President or the administration, but on these particular set of issues, I mean, we think back to last summer and the debt ceiling debate. They established their own super committee to deal with deficit issues, and the super committee failed. I mean, they had to have a press conference to announce that they could not find agreement. And so a part of this, at least for me, is really about continually pushing the issue of compromise in the Congress, compromise among the leadership, to focus on these issues, and then as leaders provide that leadership to the rest of the Congress. I'm not sure at the moment, where something might go in this one,
related to the executive, and the president has done some things on deficit reduction, has sent over various ideas. But again, my focus at the moment is on pushing the Congress to compromise, learn that word again in their vocabulary, and that was why I made the suggestion that I did.
You know, just hearing the debate, I'd like to get this by acclamation. And I don't hear opposition to this as a general proposition. The only issue is leaders or congressional leaders. I think, so what I would say is, I obviously considered congressional leaders to be, I mean, it is going to have to be the Congress that does this. Everybody's going to have to be involved. I considered congressional leaders a friendly amendment, but I don't want to sacrifice acclamation. Mayor Smith, you were the co-author of this. If you feel really strongly about it, I'll leave it at leaders, because then the leaders, covers everybody. It covers the president, it covers the Congress, it covers Democrats and Republicans, the House and the Senate. But I guess I ask you to, what's your... Okay, 1 second.
There we go. I can't say I disagree with one or two things that my esteemed colleague, boy, now we sound like we're in Congress now, don't we? What'd they say, be careful when they call you my friend? Absolutely. What's coming next? The knife comes out, yeah. Has to say. I think, though, and I think that with this conference has been very clear in its specific criticisms toward Congress and its inaction. I think in the spirit of this resolution, we were calling upon Washington as an institution. And that's how I looked at it. I don't think that anyone would doubt that Congress is a major roadblock, if not the major roadblock. But for this particular resolution, I think we chose the word leaders very carefully, simply to make a point in this resolution. I think it does change the nature of the resolution if we put Congress in there, because we're now focusing on the entity rather than the institution we call Washington. I don't think there's any doubt that we will get acclamation for what we're trying to accomplish. That was my only thoughts on the leader versus the Congress.
Yes.
So I would prefer we leave the language the way it is.
Okay. Mayor Couts?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the recognition. Mr. President, we heard from Frank Lutz, and he has suggested to us very strongly that we be clear about our message. And it appears to me that if we're going to be clear about our message about this resolution, which we all agree on, we should be saying the President and Congress return to the table immediately. Let's be clear. Let's talk, the congressional leaders.
Okay.
Back to the table immediately.
I got you. And Mayor Pasquale?
Well, I agree. In spite of what people may say about the legislative process and the veto and everything, the president has a role to play with Congress, and I think if we do that, we're making a bipartisan statement. We're not blaming anyone right now in this resolution. We all have our own opinions on that, but saying the president and congressional leaders, I think it's clear what we're saying.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pasquale. Yes,
Mr. President, let me see if I can propose something that incorporates some of the last thoughts that have come in. On the title, I might suggest that we make a change, calling on congressional leaders and the President to work in the spirit of compromise to approve a comprehensive, balanced deficit reduction plan immediately.
Calling on congressional leaders. Calling on congressional leaders. And the President.
To work in the spirit of compromise.
To work in the spirit of compromise.
To approve.
To approve.
A comprehensive, balanced deficit reduction plan immediately.
A comprehensive. I'll consider that a friendly amendment with, and so all in favor of that amendment and the other amendment which says immediately by Mayor Benjamin, say yay. On the original motion, all in favor as amended? Any nays? The yeas have it. I couldn't be prouder of all of you. I really couldn't. We are different. And thank you very much for that and for the, and again, you know, this body never ceases to amaze me in the way that we try to work through these things. And I think it's a testament to who we are as mayors, and if we had more people in the Beltway and our state capitals doing the same thing, we'd have a lot more progress moving the country ahead. So the time, there's one more resolution honoring the life of Ray Bradbury. I think you all have it in front of you. Great American. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the U.S. Conference of Mayors acknowledges his status as one of the world's most influential authors, and that this nation, as well as the entire world, shall honor Ray by continuing to read as many literary books, thereby ensuring that he will live forever in the minds of those that do. All in favor?
Is there a motion? I would make it.
Yeah, the motion was made, and it was seconded, but yes, we're voting. So is this really? Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry. If I might ask, as the person who submitted the
Yes.
motion, I would be honored if I would be allowed to make the motion.
Yes.
I truly would. So if I could make the motion, I would appreciate it.
Yes, you can make the motion. I'm sorry.
Mayor Robert Sabanjan, I apologize.
Mayor Robertson moved, seconded by our Mayor Mulder. Without objection, such will be the order. The motion has been adopted by this body unanimously and by acclamation. And with that, if there's no objection, members, as President of the United States Conference of Mayors, for a few minutes anyway, the chair would like to move the adoption of a resolution thanking Mayor Dyer and the city of Orlando, Florida, for such a special annual conference. This resolution has been distributed. Wow. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayors of the United States and all others at the 80th Annual Conference of the U.S. Conference of Mayors warmly thank the great mayor of Orlando, Buddy Dyer, his entire city's government and staff, and the friendly and knowledgeable volunteers for Orlando's heartwarming hospitality and our complete enjoyment of this amazing, magical city. The chair will now ask for a second. Seconded by Mayor Nutter. All those in favor say yay. Yay. The resolution is unanimously adopted. Next item of business is the report of the nominating committee. The chair recognizes Bridgeport Mayor, the great Mayor Bill Finch. I think you come to the podium. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Mayor Villaraigosa, for the honor of chairing the committee. I want to thank Tom Cochran and his great staff for the support they gave us, especially Sue Ferdine. Sue, thank you very much for all the support and keeping us straight and on schedule. I've been involved with the nominating committee a couple times, and this was a tremendous class of people that put their names forward, and I can speak on behalf of a committee who worked very hard, and I'd like to thank the committee. They're before you in the resolution. They were in a difficult position of having to choose between an incredible class of people who are all very highly qualified. So I'm happy to report that the nominating committee met on Thursday, June 14, 2012, and submits the following names of mayors for consideration and by vote of the membership of the United States Conference of Mayors for the following positions on Saturday, June 16th, today, 2012. President Michael Nutter, Mayor of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Vice President Scott Smith, Mayor of Mesa, Arizona. Second Vice President Kevin Johnson, Sacramento, California Mayor. For Trustee, Stephen Benjamin, Columbia, South Carolina. And Mitch Landrieu, Mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana. For Advisory Board, Brian Barnett, Rochester Hills, Michigan. Alvin Brown, Jacksonville, Florida Mayor, and Michael Rawlings, Dallas, Texas. I'd like to respectfully submit that before the committee and very much thank the committee for all their hard work and their perseverance in selecting what I think is something that should be unanimously approved. And I would encourage all of those who weren't selected to stay involved in this great organization. We've all had a chance to talk. And those of you who did win, remember that all those people were really nipping right at your heels when you won. So I respectfully submit that. And entertain a motion. And Ken Misugawa seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
We will now have the presentation of the gavel. I said to you that I was chairing for another few minutes, and I'm going off script here, so let me just say I joked with Mayor Nutter that I dedicated a page and a half of my speech the other day to him and his tremendous leadership in this organization. And I said, I was kissing up to the next president, and he was nowhere to be found. He had to go back to Philadelphia. And, you know, you talk about a team, East and West, Dodger Blue and Philly Red, two guys who grew up and never, ever, ever thought we would be standing here today. What a great, generous America we live in. And I couldn't be prouder to be handing over the gavel to him. I think we'll see that this organization is without question on the rise. It's an organization willing to get into the weeds and take on the tough issues. And I can't think of a more articulate, forceful advocate for our cities than Mayor Nutter. And so with that, I would like to pass the gavel. Should I hit this? Don't mess with me, mister. I'd like to pass the gavel to our incoming extraordinary leader, Michael Nutter, the Mayor of Philadelphia.
Good morning. I get an opportunity to make some comments later on this afternoon, but I have to say that Antonio really took at least a few words right out of my mouth. There was no reason to think 50-some-odd years ago that I would be standing here with all of you in this kind of moment. I have, as a first order of business, you'll see at your desk, hopefully, that we have a special resolution for Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa as outgoing president. And I will just read the final resolved clauses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the U.S. Conference of Mayors recognizes President Antonio Villaraigosa for his comprehensive vision for strengthening the cities and metro regions of this great country, And be it further resolved that the nation's mayors thank President Antonio Villaraigosa for his strong efforts to improve academic performance in schools, decrease gang violence, protect and improve America's infrastructure, create jobs and put people back to work, encourage cities to think local and act global, and emphasize the great contributions of mayors and their cities to innovation and to pushing the national agenda. And be it further resolved that the mayors, their families and staff, USCM staff, and all others at this 80th annual meeting in Orlando express sincere appreciation to Mayor Villaraigosa for creative and effective leadership and offer warmest wishes for him and to him for all the best that life can offer now and in the future. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. I know there's no one opposed. I'm not even going to bother with that. This particular session is concluded. You know, of course, that we have the luncheon and we have a plaque for Mayor Villaraigosa, our great friend, certainly a personal friend, a great leader, and one who I've learned a great deal from. And I'll be talking about him a little later on this afternoon. Mayor.
Come on, brother, get in the picture. Brother, from another mother over there. This is a gift from the mayor and the staff. You don't have to open it now. Why not?
No, that's okay.
I like opening stuff. What are you talking about? When I get a present, I like opening it. Love Tommy. And let me just say while I'm doing that, oh, look at me. I got me a... And I get it. Yeah, I will say I don't get to speak again. I get me a little iPad. And I got a new one. Thank you all so much and love you. And I will continue to stay involved in this beautiful organization. And I couldn't be prouder to have been your mayor and your president. Thank you. But I prefer, as I said, I'll leave you with a little joke. You know, when I first got elected, a few of us went from Baltimore, we went to meet with the president. And he's sitting across with the vice president and virtually every top official from the administration. And he looks at me and he says, Mr. President. And I said, I prefer mayor. And then he looks at me and says, I prefer president. Thank you, everybody.